a lot of people misconstrue that comment when you tell people be yourself. A lot of people confuse that to mean, oh, so you mean I need to act the way I've normally been acting up to this point. No, that's not the same thing. To be yourself doesn't mean act the way you've acted up to this point. Because more than likely, up to this point, you've absorbed so much bullshit social programming that it's totally distorted who you really are. What I try to do is peel away the layers of bullshit programming. So that's, like for example, I get a lot of comments and sometimes criticisms on my X-rated style. Now in my book, I don't specifically tell guys in order to be mode 1, you gotta use X-rated language. A lot of guys do adopt that, but I don't specifically say that. I'm X-rated because that's who I am as a guy. That's just who Alan Roger Curry is. You know, and I tell guys, if that's not your natural MO, then use PG-13 language. But see, I know for me, I don't enjoy having sex with a woman who doesn't like listening to me talk dirty. So why would I want to fuck a woman if she has a very fucked up reaction to me talking dirty? Mode 4, you never want to get in the mode 4 zone. Never, ever, ever want to get in the mode 4 zone. When you usually end up here is when you've been mode 2 and you've been mode 3 and you didn't get the results you wanted, so now you're resentful about it. You're pissed off. You like basically, if a mode 2 guy might say, God, I was flattering with, okay, good example is those 2 guys' roommates I was talking about. They're probably gonna end up here because of that incident. Because their attitude is probably like, shit, I was friendly with these women. Oh, I'm hearing your voice is competing with mine. Those guys probably feel like I was friendly with these women. I had a cordial personality. I made them laugh. How come my roommate ended up fucking her? So now they're gonna become resentful towards one, like, God, that's some bullshit. You know, we bought her drinks in the club. You know, I know a lot of guys, I've had friends, they're like, man, I wined and dined this chick, I went out on 4 dates with her, spent all this money, and like, she didn't even give me a tongue kiss. I'm like, whose fault is that? Why'd you think that you being financially generous was gonna get her pussy wet? Do you think, does anybody here think if you laid a $100 bill on a woman's pussy that it's just gonna automatically get wet? Don't get me wrong, gold diggers, there are women who are gold diggers and gold diggers like money. But if you just left the money in the room with the woman, it ain't like if you came back in the room, the dollar bill's gonna be fucking like, yeah, whose pussy is this? Whose pussy is this? I mean, money ain't gonna fuck the woman. She ain't gonna be playing her with her pussy looking at the, oh shit, damn. Oh fuck, I'm about to come. Shit ain't gonna happen. Mode 4, I always use the example of, what is a misogynist? Anybody know what a misogynist is? Define a misogynist for me. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. A woman can be a misogynist too. But yeah, it's typically applied to a man who hates women. Ted Bundy, that name ring a bell? Ted Bundy? He was, for those that don't know, he was a notorious serial killer of women. He was what most psychologists said was a misogynist. Now, you know what's interesting about Ted Bundy? He was up here killing women, like taking a sledgehammer and just beating the shit out of them. But you know, all the people who knew him, even his own family members, they said, God, we can't believe Ted did this. He was such a nice guy. He was such a great guy. What does that say to you? How can a guy be perceived as a great guy but be just killing women? Was he authentic with his close friends and family? Was he his real true self? If he was his real true self, his close friends wouldn't have known he hated women. But he put on a facade. That's what a lot of us do. Socially, we're interacting with others socially, When we're interacting, particularly with members of the opposite sex, we put on a facade, the Mode 2 facade, the Mode 3 facade. And then basically what happens when that facade does not work, when we feel like it did not produce the results we wanted, we go to Mode 4. When you Mode 4, you know you Mode 4 when you're just blatantly rude with women, harshly critical, mean-spirited and insulting, misogynistic, antagonistic. This goes back to the fear of rejection. Now when you think a handsome, playboy, smooth type guy like George Clooney, you would think he would be just this confident guy and approach women left and right. A lot of women consider him a stud or a heartthrob. This is what he said in Playboy magazine in 2000. He said, I don't go up to girls I don't know in a bar and ask them to dance. I never have, never. I've never gone up to somebody I don't know and asked them out. I just won't do it and never did because I never wanted to take my ego, as fragile as any guy's, and hand it to some girl so that she could demolish it. To me, it has always seemed like a stupid thing to do. So in terms of like, hey, you want to go out? I don't do it. He went on to basically say that half the reason he wanted to be rich and famous was so chicks would come to him as opposed to him having to approach chicks. George Clooney, man. I mean, I still love Clooney, but I ain't gonna lie, I lost a little, I took away some brownie points when I read that. But I was empathetic because most of my clients are just like him. Why do single heterosexual men want to approach women? And if you get this answer wrong, I'm kicking you out.
Because they got all the pussy.
You know, there was a movie called Wall Street with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen. And towards the end of the movie, they're getting into it because Charlie Sheen realizes that Michael Douglas has been manipulating him. And he says, how many houses on the beach do you need? How many water skis do you need? How many, nice cars do you need? Why is it just all about money? And Michael Douglas basically says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, motherfucker, business is all about making money. Everything else is just entertaining conversation. When it comes to dating and relationships, ultimately it's because you want to get together with that woman and fuck. Talking about the movies and her favorite foods and all that shit, yeah, you getting to know different quirks about her personality through, I'm not saying every conversation with a woman has to be sexual, center around sex, but to act like I've seen guys go up to women and say, well, I want you to know I'm not just talking to you because I want to get in your pants. What the fuck? What the fuck? Who has said that in here? Be honest, if you're willing to be honest. Who has told a woman, start off a conversation saying, I'm not willing to get in, I'm not talking to you because I'm trying to get in your pants? My question is, why the fuck are you talking to her then? Just for entertaining conversation? It's not a matter of do we want sex, but it's more a matter specifically of what type of sex we want. All men, I believe, want one of four types of sex at any given moment in time with any given woman in time. Long-term monogamous sex. Now this is the type of sex, most men, you still have some guys who are shy and cowardly about letting this be known. But men who are reasonably confident don't have any hesitation letting women know they're interested in this. Why? Because they know most women are interested in long-term monogamous sex. It's the other three categories where men become very fearful. That would be short-term monogamous sex. That would make you what's called a serial monogamous. There was an actor who used to be well-known named Warren Beatty. And that's what the name that they used to always give him. They would say, Warren Beatty is the most notorious serial monogamous in Hollywood. What that means, serial monogamous, he wasn't fucking like 5, 6 women at a time. He would, when he fucked a woman, he only fucked that one woman, but he only fucked her, say, for maybe 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year. Then he was on to the next woman. Then he fucked her for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So that's different from a womanizer. A womanizer would be a guy who's fucking multiple women. Serial monogamous is just when you go from one to one to one. Long-term non-monogamous. Do you know this faction, they did a report, some show I was watching, is probably the most heavily growing in society. Best example of this would be like open marriages, swingers, couple swappers. They said in America now there's as many as like 10 million people who are into some form of swinging, couple swapping, or open relationships. That's when you, and I'm not going to touch too much on that because actually that's Johnny's, that's his niche, is polyamorous dating. That's the formal term for it, polyamorous dating. And then short-term non-monogamy. I would argue that out of the four, this is the one that most men are afraid of being straightforward about. Is that they just want to say a one-night stand or a weekend fling or 2 or 3 weeks of casual sex with a woman. Why? Because they feel like most women are going to have an aversion to that. And to a degree, they're right. And I'm going to tell you why. And women, when I say this, they laugh, but then they'll usually say, Alan, that's true. Women, see, a man can have some really good pussy on a Friday night and still he could have the discipline to leave it alone. If a woman gets some good dick she enjoys in her pussy, she don't want it one night. That would be like giving me the best chicken wings you ever could cook and saying, Alan, this is only gonna be for one night.
That's racist.
I love chicken wings. I love chicken wings. No, but seriously, women, when they get somebody that they enjoy having inside of them, they want that guy repeatedly. So that's one of the reasons, like some guys think it's because women don't like, I've had men say, I don't think women like sex as much as us. I was like, that's bullshit. I've never dated a woman who didn't want to fuck as much, if not more than me, ever. All of my ex-girlfriends wanted to fuck at minimum as much as I did, if not more. The term nymphomaniac came from women. That ain't a male term. Matter of fact, a guy enlightened me at the Las Vegas Direct Dating Summit. Sasha had this guy from Chicago named James Amaro. And me and him had this long discussion. He's a very intelligent guy. He's also into polyamory, and he teaches domination submission. But he said, Alan, most guys don't know, but he said, up until the Victorian era, he said, like nowadays, you know how the media basically portrays men as like the hornier sex, like we're just walking around horny. He said, believe it or not, it was just the opposite a few centuries ago. I said, really? He said, yeah, up until the Victorian era, women were actually considered the hornier sex. But then he said, starting with the Victorian era, that's when the roles kind of changed. It mainly came from married women was getting frustrated with their husbands fucking, as they call them, loose women, promiscuous women. So then they became more of an emphasis on women carrying themselves like a conservative, prudish type woman. But yeah, when women get good dick, they want it regularly. So that's why a lot of them will have an adverse reaction to casual sex. But my thing is, if they do, so what? Because some of them will give you the impression. Oh, here's another thing, and this is why I'm going to get a little bit on my soapbox. I'll say this in my book, if you read my one. There's a lot of things that women do that I don't care for and disagree with, but there's a lot of things my own gender does, of course, that I don't like and disagree with. One big thing I can't stand that men do, but I know men do it all the time, is you pursue a woman to fuck her, and then you turn around and tell your buddy Joe and Larry, man, yeah, I fucked that bitch Cindy, she's a fucking slut. But then you wonder why women want to play games and act hard to get in bed. Shit, if I was a woman, I would do the fucking same thing. Why the fuck you gonna pursue a woman to fuck her and then turn around and judge her? I'm gonna tell you as a man to man, that's fucked up. And you probably have cost yourself a lot of pussy if you've been guilty of doing that. That's at least half the reason why a lot of women play games and why they give you token resistance or resist casual sex. Because they don't want you doing the, as they call it, the locker room talk. You know, now, if you got a girlfriend and she's cheating on you and fucking 5 of your best friends, yeah, you go ahead and call her a slut. If she told you she was going to just fuck you and be monogamous to you, but you found out, then yeah, that's a scenario where I say she deserves to have some names thrown on her. And some other similar scenarios. But for a woman that just agreed to give you some pussy because you wanted the pussy, but now you're going, I had a speaker, I'm not going to say his name because some of you might be familiar with the speaker, but he spoke at the London one. He basically said that. He admitted that that was the attitude he had. Matter of fact, he admitted it in his attempt to criticize Mode 1. He basically said, I don't believe in being verbally direct about my sexual intentions. He said, number one, I don't think it works. And if it did work, that would make me look at a woman as a slut. Or he said slag, actually. He said, any woman who would give me the pussy from me directly telling her I wanted the pussy, he said, I wouldn't respect a woman. Man, let's just say I got my revenge on him on stage. But, so if you're guilty of doing that, you need to realize you're contributing to the duplicity of women. What does duplicity mean? Anybody know what duplicity? Johnny, don't answer everything. One of you guys, you know what it means for a woman to be sexually duplicitous? Because I use that term a lot. One of my female friends, she said, Alan, there's two words you love that start with a D, is disingenuous and duplicitous. Disingenuous, of course, just simply means phony, insincere. Duplicitous, which is what a lot of what I would call game playing women do, and this is what I get into in the book I have here, Who Said Again. It's about women's social programming. And, well, I don't want to go there just yet. Whatever I don't finish with this, because I'm actually going to cut my presentation off in about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to open it up for question and answer. But I will be up here again tomorrow night for another hour and a half. So some of the stuff I'll get to tomorrow. But just real quickly on sexually duplicitous women. A sexually duplicitous woman is simply a woman who publicly acts like she's this innocent, wholesome, conservative, good girl. But privately, when you get her behind closed doors, she's just a wild, kinky animal in bed. But she doesn't want to show you that side too quickly or too easily because of related with what I was talking about. She doesn't want to be judged. And that's why a lot of women give those theatrical reactions like, you know, I don't believe you're talking to me that way. I'm not any type of hoe or slut. Because what that comes from, most women are socially programmed. These are two words I use a lot in my workshops. Social programming. Most women are programmed to present themselves as a good girl. Because most mothers believe that's the only way their daughters will find a long-term boyfriend or husband. Fathers, of course, contribute to that. See, some of us men, we can be so hypocritical. We'll want to fuck somebody else's daughter, somebody else's sister, somebody else's mother. But if we have a daughter, girl, sex is disgusting, okay? Remember that. Sex is nasty, it's disgusting, it's representative of gutter thoughts. And then a woman grows up. She's like, golly, okay, my father said that sex is disgusting, it's nasty, it should be avoided. But damn, when I'm around that one guy, God, my pussy gets real wet. And I do want to give him some pussy. But no, my mother and father said I need to be a good girl and keep my legs crossed. But God, that guy makes me just want to get on my knees and suck his cock. So they developed what's called internal conflicts. And if you read that book, I talk about that. Have you ever seen a cartoon where you have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other? Seen that in a lot of cartoons. If you haven't, basically saying there's a voice of reason talking to you and a voice of temptation talking to you. I say with women, they have a social programming voice, then they have that raw hormone voice. And so when you're going to get that reaction, those theatrical reactions, that's because in that woman's mind, that social programming voice is saying, hey, Linda, remember, you're a good girl. You're not supposed to be letting a man talk to you in an X-rated manner and talk to you in a real seductive manner. But then a raw hormone voice is saying, well, shit, I like what he's saying. He get my pussy wet. And then it's like back and forth, this voice, this voice, this voice. And that's when they start giving you those theatrical reactions, testing your balls. Another thing I want to touch on before I get to the question and answer, I was telling some of the guys I was speaking to before the presentation, one of the things I emphasize also in Who Said Again is what you're listening to, the power of the voice. A lot of guys want to say, man, my sexual tool is right here, man. This is how I get the ladies. That's bullshit. Your dick only has an impression on a woman after you fuck her. But from the time you meet her, up until the first time you fuck her, it's about your Well, it's a number of things. I'm not going to say it's only these things, but I would say for me, it's about your voice and your conversational skills and the size of your balls, figuratively speaking. Your voice, your conversational skills, and the size of your balls. Here's the biggest testament to how to voice, and I talked about this at a couple other workshops. Women have paid me to have regular and semi-regular phone sex with them. Some of the women I've had phone sex with had not seen me yet. Think about that. So that just lets you know you don't have to be an outstandingly handsome guy. I could have been the hunchback of Notre Dame. I had a woman, I told the story in Las Vegas, I had a woman call me from a temp agency. She had no clue what I looked like. But we were talking and she kind of opened the door for us. She said, Mr. Curry, can I tell you something? I said, sure. And then she quickly said, nothing. I said, no, tell me. And she went, nothing. I said, come on. She said, okay, you have a very nice phone voice. Now, in my more conventional days, I want to just say, oh, thank you, and continue with the conversation. I said, I bet my voice gets your pussy wet, doesn't it? She said, oh my God, I don't believe you said that. Oh my God. I said, okay, you through getting all theatrical on me? I said, now tell me, you want to play with your pussy right now for me, don't you? She says, I can't believe we're having this conversation. Oh my God, she's still freaking out. But I just was still relaxed. I said, no, seriously, tell me, go ahead and say that. Say, Mr. Curry, your voice gets my pussy real wet. She said, Mr. Curry, your voice gets my pussy real wet. I said, say it again. She said, Mr. Curry, your voice gets my pussy real wet. I said, say it again. I told you I let her say it again. She said, your pussy gets my voice so wet. Next thing you know, she was playing with her pussy in her office. And this was the thing, and this is where I'm gonna ask Beth, my assistant, to come up. I want to demonstrate something. Because now I can take a joke, and I can take people impersonating me and teasing me. As long as, if you're gonna impersonate me though, be on the mark. But when I was in Vegas, a couple of the other speakers and maybe a couple of other attendees, they kept telling me that they had this impression that they said, Alan, I can't just walk up to women like you do. I said, well, number one, how do you think I walk up to women? Oh, you go up to women, you say, hey, I want to fuck you silly. I was like, where did you see that? What video did you see me do that on? They said, well, we didn't see a video you doing it, but I mean, just like kind of from reading your books, we just... And another guy said the same thing. I think one of the speakers, he got on stage and did some brief impersonation where he said, or you can be like Alan Roger Curry and be like, hey, baby, I want to get all in your pussy. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, it was mainly said in a humorous, I didn't get too agitated by it, but that's so far from, so what was mind-blowing to a lot of guys in Vegas was when I showed them how I do. And what I do is, when I approach a woman, and I talk about this in the book, the first thing I do before I approach a woman is I size her up. I look at her body language. Because women, generally, I would put their body language in three categories. They're either going to have receptive body language, indifferent body language, or non-receptive body language. It's going to fall in one of those three: receptive, indifferent, or non-receptive. How do you know that for sure? When you approach a woman, you want to first get in what I call her space. Most body language experts say the 3-foot radius that surrounds us is our space. So if I get less than 3 feet of her, now I'm in her space. At this point, she's going to do one of 3 things. And this is what I pay attention to. And this determines what I say, how provocative I might get, etc. If I approach a woman, I get in her space, and her first reaction is to take a step back or lean away from me, that means that something about my presence or what I've said up to this point makes her feel uncomfortable. She's either at maximum, she's just not attracted to you, she's not interested in you, or at minimum, again, you said something or did something that makes her feel uncomfortable. So in that situation, I wouldn't even, 99% chance, I'm not going to say anything really X-rated or risque. If I get in her space and she just basically stays in the same spot, she doesn't move closer, she doesn't move away, she just stays. That's when I would call that the indifferent zone. That means there's a 50% chance she could be interested in you, 50% chance she's not. She wants to hear more from you that's going to solidify her decision. Now here's when I know I got a bingo. If I get in a woman's space and she either A, moves closer to me as I'm talking, like some guys will ask me, they'll say, Alan, I've seen women criticize you, but you look like you're unfazed. You look like it didn't affect you at all. I say, what else did you notice other than her criticize me and insult me? And they won't know. I'll say, did you notice as she was criticizing me, she was actually moving closer to me? Who does that? So if a woman moves close to me or she lets me, if a woman lets me talk to where I can talk to her in her ear, that's where I do most of my X-rated talk. It ain't no, hey baby, my shit is more like, no, we need to hook up. We need to hook up next week or two and suck on your nipples and slide my hard dick all in your pussy. Love a hard dick in your pussy, don't you? Mm-hmm. Say yes, sir. Now, I know this is embarrassing her, but she knew she was going to do some role playing. But yeah, seriously, that's how just about all my dirty talk is I'm this close. I'm never talking dirty to a woman from here like, hey baby, I want you to suck my dick. No, my shit is like, I want to just slide my dick all in your mouth. Just fuck your mouth. I love having my mouth fucked. Say it again.
I love having my mouth fucked.
Did you hear me say it again? Say it again. That might just sound like a phrase you can never see. Thank you, Beth.